All right. Guess I see Barb send a message. She won't be able to make it.
Okay, no worries.
All right, and then I think this is our meeting. Packet. Hey, Tommy.
Yes, Joanna, it is going in and out.
Okay, thank you, Bert.
You're welcome. I can't hear him.
Okay, well, someone might have to get a message out. Jennifer's supposed to be moderating, so hopefully she's seeing the message.
Okay.
Hey, Tommy, I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry to interrupt you, Tommy, but nobody can hear you from. Maybe he can't hear me.
There you go.
That's better.
Okay. Let's do a real quick redo on that. You probably did not hear me there. I was gonna say, do we have any officer meetings or any officer announcements over here from anyone else? No one? Okay, what I was saying is for people who missed me on Zoom, I'm sorry. We're gonna change the forum tonight a little bit. What we're gonna do is when we reach new business items, I'm gonna provide a brief description of the motion being made if it's required. Then I'll be making the motion. Provided I get a second, I will open the conversation up to the floor. Members of the room, you'll have 3 minutes each to speak to the motion. Please stand up, come forward, state your name so that it can be heard by the mic here. Members on Zoom, please attempt to type in your question. Jennifer is our Zoom moderator here, and she will be getting your questions into us as they fit into the conversation as soon as she can. If you do need to speak, please let Jennifer know, and she will unmute you, ask you to unmute, and call upon you when it's time to do so. After that, the board can deliberate internally on any motions, and a vote will be had for that motion to be carried out. And then once again, after all business is done, we have another open forum where everyone could speak as they need.
Sounds good.
Community manager reports?
A reminder for everyone that the CDD board meeting is Thursday, December 2nd at 10 a.m. here in the Lake House. The financials for October were provided to the board on October 16th. I did not get any questions or concerns or changes on that. The delinquencies from September, they were 27, just under 28,000. October, they're down to 18,390. And of course, that does include a few of them that are still at the attorney. But one of your largest ones that has been on the attorney status since prior to me just sold. So you'll be seeing some major money coming in on that. Excuse me, I turn the page. The action item from last month, separating the reserve accounts. As of November 9th, Richard from Associa had let me know that they submitted a request to open up the 4 additional reserves as reserve accounts and have them set up under each department. Once those have been completed, they can go through the process of determining the reconciliation of the balances and then transfer the funds over and modify the recurring reserve transfers to reflect with the correct banks. So we're moving forward with that. More action items from October's meeting and your votes. The fining violation committee was established. Bernie, the chairman, is still working on getting volunteers. If anyone is interested in joining that committee, you can contact me and I'll forward your information to Bernie. We have 1 member, so we do need a couple more. The CPA for the 2021 audit of the tax preparation, that contract was signed and forwarded to the CPA. Republic Services 2022 contract was signed and forwarded to Republic Services. The November and December change of meeting dates were updated on Town Square and posted on Facebook. The rental deposit decision was changed in the reservation form and updated on Town Square. The violation finding policy, I am in the process of drafting that, and I intend to have that for your December meeting for a vote. The Sandpiper Crest Townhome driveway paver issue. Because Park Square was not addressing the issue with me in a timely manner, we of course sent that to the attorney, and as of November 8th, your attorney sent to Park Square a demand, cease and desist, that they end construction of non-conforming aprons. In addition, a demand was made to cure existing violations. So I'm waiting on an update from that. Under landscape, the Sunrise Landscape 2022 contracts. I met with Sunrise Landscape on November 2nd to review their contracts and the specifications that I drafted to go along with that. Some revisions were made at that meeting, and final copies were provided to the board on November 5th. So it's ready for your signature, Tommy. Sagewood and Villas. This has to do with the homeowners adjusting their irrigation timers. And I'm just going to read this because it's easier to read. Since the HOA is responsible for the maintenance of the lawns and irrigation for Sagewood and the Villas, the landscape contractor will be reporting to management the addresses of those owners who have turned off their irrigation timers. The contractor sets the timers based on the county and SwiftMud's guidelines, and turning the timers off to save money can result in stressing the lawn by it not receiving adequate water for proper growth. I am compiling a report of all addresses for both neighborhoods, and a letter will be mailed to those putting them on notice, the owners on notice. When it comes time for sod replacement, I will compare the addresses on the list to those needing new sod. If it is determined that those turning off the timers on a regular basis have stressed their lawns, resulting in the need for replacement, I will inform the board of those results so the board can decide on action taken on that replacement, meaning whether the replacement will happen or not. Landscaping in regards to townhomes. In preparation of Sunrise Landscaping taking over the landscape contract in January, we met with the president, Tommy and I met with Sunrise Landscape and Steadfast, who's the current landscape contractor for the townhomes, to review the current irrigation and landscaping issues caused by the Park Square builders. And I'll go into a little bit of the detail. If you go through the community, the builders are basically storing their roof trusses, a lot of their material on the common ground that was already done. It's damaging not only the landscape, there's probably about 4 trees that need to be replaced because of it, and the irrigation is now being damaged. So an inventory is being taken by Steadfast to determine what currently are the issues that we are going to be taking over with Sunrise, and we will adjust accordingly the repairs that need to be made by Park Square builders. If we receive a bill, then we will forward it through the attorney to handle and have Park Square reimburse the association, because we don't want the contractor not being paid on time. That ends my report. The full report is on Town Square and on Facebook.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports?
Hey, everybody. If I can have the floor. So the next meeting for the social committee is December 7th, 6:30 p.m. We have a lot of events going on right now. We have the toy drive for Brandon Hospital, which anyone that has some sort of craft or toy or something that's suitable for children in the pediatric, all ages is welcome. To drop off an unwrapped gift there. We will also, we're going to be starting to set up the angel tree that if anyone would like one, we have a few that people can pick up at their leisure, and we'll be working on getting that set up. We have the Santa event will be in December. We have 2 dates now, 11th and 12th. 12th is still available. I believe the 11th sold out. With 175 participants. The second day on December 12th, the 10 to 2, we're at 52% participants, and it sold out at 56%. Hopefully we'll be selling out the rest of those. So if anyone else wants to, they can still sign up for the December 12th event for Santa story time. Let's see, what else am I? I think those are the main events right now. We have, I think we have other food truck things I think we'll touch on probably later. But those are the main ones that I have to report on at this point.
Thank you, Johanna. And yeah, I'll touch on the food trucks right now. The food trucks will be out December 4th. I do not have the time yet, but it's going to be probably late afternoon. Please look for the postings of that. That should be going out as early as tomorrow, most likely, or Monday or Tuesday. We'll have postings for information on that, both on Town Square and Facebook.
Great. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. And we'll, of course, have another meeting coming up on the 7th, and I'll be putting up updates as we go through and these events.
Do we have any other committee reports? All right, then we'll move on to new business. New business here, here's the big one. We have the 2022 budgets. I'm going to make a motion to approve the Financial Committee's 2022 proposed budget without a special assessment.
I'll second that motion.
Second it. Good. So this is open to the floor now. So the proposal, I honestly, I want to pick the Financial Committee's proposal for quite a few reasons. I do feel, I do not feel engaged to have a special assessment. But being said that, we've had long discussions about all. I'll open this up to the floor. If anyone has any comments or anything they'd like to add.
At this time, I kind of agree. I don't want to do a special assessment. If at any point we want, if I'm not, if I'm understanding everything correctly, are we keeping the as the same? Or are we doing an increase? I just want to clarify.
If we're going with the Financial Committee proposal, there is an increase.
Okay.
Kind of look at it in front of me. Here,
Okay.
And according to that, I'm sorry, Joanna, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure, because it was a little unclear in the way the motion read, whether that we were going with that increase or if we were staying as the same. So I just want to clarify. I don't really support the special assessment at this point.
There's three proposals here. We have one from Associa, and then we have two from the Financial Committee. One of the Financial Committees, they're both the same, except for one is written in form of special assessment. The other one is in the form of a due increase. And the due increase seems to be about $130, $129.50.
Increase, yeah.
Increase. Now, that's whether you go with the special assessment or you go with the non-special assessment direct due increase. It's $129.50 for the master. If you go with the associate's budget, that is not in there.
And how much does that leave us in a positive or negative situation if we go with the Financial Planning Committee?
Well, without ripping this all apart, offhand, I don't exactly know.
Well, don't you think we should know that, Tommy?
We should, Bert. Here's the thing. I'm not having this discussion to come up with exact numbers unless that's really what we want to do at the time. But the point of the matter is, discussion is with the $130, we're going to have enough surplus to hopefully cover our reserve increase next year. That's
But we don't know what those reserve increases are going to be, correct?
not going to be less.
And we're lowering the assessments on the subdivisions, correct?
For the villas.
For the villas, yeah. Here.
Villas, Sagewood, and who else?
Yeah, say villas.
Villas for sure, Bert.
Westlake. Tommy, if I may.
Yep.
What I'm reading on the first page, just to summarize the proposed monthly for next year for each area. You have the master annual at $580 for the year. And then villas decreased to $128 from $146,
Yep, I'm with you.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, then Sagewood decreases from $200 to $193 a month. Westlake increases from $124 to $133. Townhomes increase from $212 to $235.
Yeah, so villas go down $18, Sagewood goes down $7, Westlake up $9, Sandpiper's up $23.
And how did we come at those numbers? What generated the decrease in the Sagewood Villas and Westlake assessments?
That's a question for the Financial Committee, Bert.
The Financial Committee does not represent the board.
Okay, that's a question for the financial committee, Bert. I mean, can you answer it yourself? Because I don't have the answer for you.
I have somebody that wants to speak too.
Heather, do you have any insight? Richard, do you have any insight?
I do not about, so.
Do we have anyone from financial committee here?
Gentlemen, I'm having difficulty hearing this conversation. This is Sean.
Hi, Sean.
I'm sorry, I'm in the car, so I'm having difficulty with a lot of echoey conversation. I just want to give some insight of what we came up with according to what Richard gave us. Richard's numbers he reviewed and sent back to us. We implemented almost everything that he recommended in our revised budget, with some other things that we had discussed earlier. So the budget that's there in front of you at this point was a recommendation to try to replenish some of the past surpluses that were spent out of the budget, and then also to try to make up for the possibility. It went greatly down after speaking with Richard and going over his numbers, because some of the things that we were reported to us were inaccurate at first and corrected by his review. So at this point, it went down from almost $200 increase to $124 increase if we increased the dues or did a special assessment of $118. So the other dues all went down in addition to that. I mean, some of them were even a decrease at this point for the monthly dues. So the budget that we presented was the best of all of the data that we had, including what Richard gave us, and very carefully calculated.
Okay, so I have a question. How much of, and I understand that there's a reserve involved, how much of a positive cash flow do you project in the master budget?
The positive cash flow at the end of this year was around $8,820. I don't have the form in front of me.
$6,909. Richard has projected $120,000 at the end of 2021. Did you read that email, sir?
I read his email, but I also looked at his reports, and his reports did not reflect that.
This is Richard.
Go ahead, Richard.
Interject there. The adjustments as far as the net cash flow or the net surplus for the year was adjusted slightly downward due to the fact of the $31,000 that was sitting on the balance sheet for the October timeframe that we were working with, which was attributed to the townhomes reconciliation that was going on. So that 31,000 came off of the actual net income for the year. The forecast for the master, the surplus would come to $8,038.04.
Which reconciles the number I just gave you.
Okay, and then what are we looking at in 2022? With the increased assessments. Richard?
Increased adjustments for what? Those adjustments.
The Master Association with an increase in the dues. I would like to know if we are going to be in a positive or negative come 2022.
Absolutely positive.
How much? $120,000.
No.
What are you going to do with it?
Bert,
what are you going to do with it? Go ahead. What are you going to do with it?
Bert, you're going to be paying back.
Paying back what?
Can I speak, please?
Go ahead. You've got everybody.
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Of that $120,000, approximately $65,000 of it goes back to overages from the past several years that were not paid into the other four budgets.
So we've come up with $28,000 that's already being accredited to Sagewood, and now we're paying $67,000. Are we still back on the $77,000?
No, Bert, that $28,000 is part of that money. That's the
Oh.
projected amount that would be due to them, that would be paid back in 2022 by the master.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions to this matter? I think Jennifer, you said you may have had someone.
James Curry put the agenda posted on November 15th shows that 39,408 surplus for Sandpiper and a decrease in dues to $170.70.
Yes, that was the one just recently posted by me. That's the one, those are the numbers that we're looking at the moment.
I do have some questions. I have questions for the committee in regards to, I'm just trying to get an idea of going through the numbers because we never sat down and compared. So I'm sure there's some valid reasons. I just need to try to understand. So I've made some notes comparing my numbers to your numbers, and for the most part, over 90%, our numbers match. But there are, I'm sorry?
I agree with that, yes.
I'm sorry, say again?
He said he
Oh,
agrees.
okay.
Sorry.
But there are a couple, I just want to try to get mindset of what the numbers represent that I'm finding. So the first item was GL 5000, which is general administrative. And I'm not sure if the committee remembered this, but currently this year, when we get a bill from Associa, and this was started before I came on board here, so we just continued this. Everything basically out of that monthly admin bill is charged to GL 5000. And then the coupon costs and the copying costs are then reclassed to GL 5210 and GL 5215. At a workshop, I had mentioned to streamline and just lessen 2 more GLs on the lines. I suggested that all of that entire bill gets charged to GL 5000. So when you look at my budget, I have 31,912. And that includes the GLs 5215, 5210, which I've zeroed out. When you look at my projected year end for this year, that is going to show less for GL 5000 because we're not considering copying and the postage in with that line item. In the committee's budget, you have decreased GL 5000 to $26,000, but you've also zeroed out GL 5215 and 5210, which ultimately is going to result in GL 5000, the general administrative line item, being underfunded. So I'm suggesting that we leave it at 31,912 because we're going to be short based on the average between the 3 GL lines. Did I make sense on that, Sean?
It does, but the reason that we left it the way it was is because we don't really have coupon costs at this point. And more importantly is that the postage had been rolled into it. We left the postage off and rolled it because you had rolled it into the GL code. All that's going to do is decrease the surplus. It doesn't really affect the dues. So, I mean, slightly, maybe $1 or $2. So I don't see the necessity of making that change at this point, but I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's about a $5,000 difference, and I understand that. I just try to be kind of semi-meticulous when it comes to coding, because I want to make sure that we're coding correctly and we're not underfunding those items, so we'll just see how that pans out. The next item is GL 6404, the access cards, the amenity cards. On the worksheet that I provided, I listed out details as far as history, what each item costs, the labels for the pictures, the cards, how many on average we're ordering, how many we're going through per month. And based on that average, which was pretty healthy, I wasn't being stingy with the numbers, was $2,900, but the committee came up with $5,500. Can you explain the difference?
Because we had already exceeded that amount, the percentage that we exceeded from our budget prior year was nearly double of what it was allotted for. So we went off what was already spent for the year, plus a small increase to round it up. That's all.
But the reason why there was a larger expenditure in this year was due to the past manager ordering, and the bill did not come in until 3 months later. It should show in the last year, but it was not able to be accrued back. So the true expense is going to be around $3,000. If the board wants.
Understood, but I think Tommy has a proposal to change some of that, and that budget would be included in at that point. So that at that point would change the access cards and the expense on them to a different number. But even so, that would probably wash out the general ledger. So we're back to square one in the first place.
Okay. This is a little bit of a smaller difference, just trying to understand, and it might be a slight roundup. But mulch and tree trimming, I put down on the worksheet that the history has been 100 cubic yards of mulch at $45 per cubic yard, and 500 cubic yards of straw, which is $5.50 a cubic yard. Based on the history and the quotes received, the yearly expenditure would be $7,250. The committee put in $8,000. Was there something else that you were thinking about doing under mulch and pine straw install?
No, again, it was taking the 10 months that we had the financials for, amortizing the last 2 months and rounding up. That's all that number came about.
Okay. Was that the same thing for salaries? Because
no, the salaries were based on, again, yes, most of the items on that list that were based on the 10 months of expenses, we amortized just like Richard did. We amortized the last 2 months, and then basically, for the most part, just rounded up to the nearest dollar rather than leaving the cents in there, or the nearest $100 if it was something that large.
Yeah, you guys are about $5,000 more than my numbers, which I can't share the breakdown, but you have FICA and taxes and then payroll processing involved. So, but that's fine. Again, I'm just trying to understand.
But that number does closely match Richard's.
For payroll.
Yes.
I'll show you my breakdown. I'm sorry, I was speaking to Richard. Hold on 1 second, I want to make sure I'm not missing something. I'm going to save that one for last. The fitness equipment repair and maintenance, I had $1,200 for the year because FitRev inspecting quarterly at $500 for the year, and then an average of $700 a year of minor parts. Everything else would be a reserve expense, so that's why I put that at $1,200. The committee put it at $5,000. Was there something else that we were trying to budget for with that difference?
No, we didn't add any or buffer any of these numbers, only what was based on the reports that Richard gave us and our cross calculations of the same. We did almost exactly the same thing that Richard did before he did it. We took all the financials, we put them month by month, we totaled them up, we amortized them for the 2 months, and then we rounded up in some cases just to make it simple. In some cases, when we knew that there was no going to be any further expenses for the end of the year, we didn't add anything at all for the amortization. But that's only a few of them like that. So there is nothing here planned or calculated other than the fact that they came from the numbers.
Okay. So the trash and recycling service contract for the 2 dumpsters out here, the board just signed a contract with Republic Services for no increase. So it's going to be the same cost as this year. So you guys might have rounded up, really wasn't necessary because it's an exact cost every month. You had $4,500, I've got it at the exact $4,133.
Yeah,
So,
we weren't privy to the contracts. We went for what was spent, exactly what was spent. So if it's not going to go up, it was based on exactly what was spent.
Yeah, okay. And this is, and this is a contractual item. This isn't something that fluctuates every month or every other month. So.
Yeah, although it does. because we didn't pay. It's hard for us to know that, and I'll tell you why. Because we didn't pay most of the bills monthly. Some of them are paid 3 months at a time. Some of them are paid 2 months at a time. We basically can only do it by averaging what came out of that, and then basically assuming that's what it's going to be for the last 2 months. Without knowing the contract's supposed to be, let's say, $100 per month. Some of the contracts we knew, some of them we had access to, but we did not have for everything. So there could be a few discrepancies in there. And again, this is an estimate. It's not exactly supposed to be dead on from what's going to be spent next year, because basically things can change, and they will.
Understood. The cable phone internet service for the office, the bills coming in and that have been paid are $4,800 for the year, and the community $1,000 more.
Again, that would be the same process. So the oddity of this is that our numbers came out with the same kind of balances that Richards did. We were just a few $1,000s off total between the two of us. So I'm fairly certain that our numbers are fairly consistent. I realize that there's going to be discrepancies, not knowing, having the contract, some of that information that we would have liked to have had to make some more assessment. But basically, we did the exact same thing that Richards review did, which was total up everything, amortize the last 2 months, and then add those to it.
The only other thing, and thank you very much for explaining those, it helps me understand, but the only other thing is the reserve study. Now I'm going to digress back to a conversation that we had at the workshop. Discussed that if we were to do a reserve study, get a reserve study quote for all of the neighborhoods, then we would want to split those costs up between all of the neighborhoods. However, the quote that we received for $8,750, which is going to be voted on tonight, is only, is only for the common areas. Every single home in the community pays towards the common area expenses on the master annual. So what I'm trying to understand is the committee has taken the $8,750 and has divvied that up between a portion on the master line item, and then you have it split up between the monthlies when those homes that are in the monthlies are already paying towards the annual. So why wouldn't the $8,750 be assigned only to the master budgets, just like all the other line items are that all the other?
If you invert that, all the other line items for the common areas are for the common areas only. They're not for our common areas in our respective service areas, right? So, whereas someone from, let's say, the general area would be paying for our reserve study for our section, which doesn't make any sense. The reason for breaking it down, and the quote that you did get for $8,750 from Florida Reserve Studies did break it down by service area and the master. And that's where I got the numbers from.
Well, the $8,750 is from Reserve Advisors, and their quotes, actually all three quotes only included, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak on Reserve Advisors. I know that because I can see it in my head, was only for reserving for the common area elements.
And I know for a fact that the reserve study that we sent over to you from Florida Reserves broke down each neighborhood individually, each service area and the common areas for the master individually, and that's what those numbers are based on.
So his reserve study also will include the reserve items for Westlake, Sagewood, Villas, and the townhomes?
That is correct.
Okay, because the other two did not quote that. So, okay, understood. I think that was all my questions. I thank you.
I have questions online. From the Coleman family, on the contracted service line, the security camera line shows that our actual spent this year was increased significantly. Have we put in security cameras, and where did the money go to?
Which one, madam?
Security camera line.
You know which budget they're looking at?
Which budget are they looking at, yeah?
Could you tell us?
It's the same number pretty much on both budgets. So isn't that for the monitoring as well as maintenance and repair for the security cameras?
It should be off the main one, shouldn't it?
That's off the master office security.
Master.
Yeah, it's on the master.
Let me go to mine. Because I think that's what, 1,200?
Yeah, the short answer is we put in security cameras. You did?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
They're talking about the, or the budgeting.
Yeah. Question
Is she
was?
talking about the expenses, or are they talking about what's budgeted?
Have we put in security cameras? Where did the money go to?
This year?
Right.
Yes, there was some upgrades and repairs that needed to be done.
I'm on a Zoom, so. Did you? You didn't say here.
Yeah, I did.
Her bag. Oh. Oh. Hold on. Sorry.
So yes, in answer to that question, there were some upgrades and some repairs that needed to be made, so there were some expenses in that line item.
And then under utilities, I noticed the street has gone up substantially. Has Tico raised their prices that much?
These people are ready.
Spending thousands more.
Thank you. She's all good. Pooped, peed, ate. We'll be hungry.
Hey, can you mute her? The Daniela.
So one of the things, just generally speaking, in regards to the streetlights, there were some items in the budget preparation last year that were not budgeted properly. They were underfunded. And so the expenses are obviously actuals. So the budget for next year will be based on actuals. So that's why you're seeing that variance of higher expenses as opposed to what was budgeted, because that number wasn't budgeted properly.
I just wanted to know, because it just seemed like a substantial increase from projected to actually spent, and I wasn't sure if it was just something that, given our issues with where money has gone, I just wanted to make sure.
Understand, and one of the
In
things
actuality, that's been
you can do is you can look back on my financials that I submitted, and I mean, I can always email them to you, but what I submit to the board is I submit a summary page for each area, the master and all the sub areas. And anything that is a variance, I will explain why there's a variance. And so you'll see there's several items that were under budgeted, or maybe there was an unexpected expense. I just try to explain the variance on those each month.
If I may add, one of the issues that we had all along was that the initial budget that was handed off to the board by, the founders, and modified as we went along was not budgeted correctly. That's what's caused some of the discrepancies and the shortages that we ran into that we're trying to make up for this year. So you're going to see some large variances between what was budgeted and what really should have been budgeted. And we've corrected that, hopefully between both associates and the finance committee's efforts, come up with something that's pretty close to being on target.
And how far is the associate budget off? I've heard a lot of comments here that says basically you're in sync. So why not are we approving the associate budget?
We're in sync with Richard's review, but the budget from associate is different at this point. There were some even the last one that was published that we saw had revenue discrepancies. There were 3 ledger lines that Richard had removed that were incorrectly on the budget that we'd asked about previously. Those things made up the difference that made Richard's review match what we came up with. And that's why I'm saying Richard's review was as close to ours as we both came up with very similar numbers between that, but it wasn't what was budgeted initially.
Okay, so we're going to ignore associate. We're going to ignore Heather's 15 years of experience, and we're going to defer to the financial planning committee. That's the only thing I'm saying. It's okay. I have only one vote, but I'm saying
we're not ignoring associate. Richard is the one to clarify.
Let me finish now. This is our property management company. We have Richard's emails supporting all of what was asked. We are going to ignore that. And we're going to go ahead with the Financial Planning Committee. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bert. We have other people here wanting to speak.
If I
That's
could,
fine.
if I could add something to this conversation, since my name is being used a lot in the conversation as far as Richard's submissions and numbers. The exercise that I went through did validate and make some changes to the numbers based on the communications I expressed at the town hall and the additional emails that went out to the finance committee and to the board as a whole. The recap and the presentation for the forecast for 2021, that information appears to be in sync with what you're talking about, Sean. There were, though, when you're saying that all the numbers are the same as mine, there was some clarification that I was asking for in an email that went out to the finance committee as well as CC the board with trying to get some clarification on numbers because the shortfalls, the deficits that are being carried over and/or the surpluses, there were some discrepancies from what you're saying as far as my numbers were. And I never saw any responses to that. Some of them really weren't aren't gonna make much of a difference, like Sagewood was only $1,300, Westlake was $6,000. However, the villas was $24,000, and the townhomes or Sandpiper was $54,000 difference. And so, not talking even about the master budget with 75,000 and the 40-something thousand dollars, which I understand. And what I was asking for clarification on was the wording of that and bundling it, that it was to fill a shortfall, not a shortfall, but to have additional funds to meet the needs of the association. How they're being classified is not really accurate in those statements. So when we're saying that, everything was submitted from Richard's worksheets and communications, I do need to put that clarification out there that there is an email that was not responded to, which has some questions on the villas for $24,000 and the townhomes for $54,000 as far as the shortfall and or revenue surplus. And it appears that the concept of how those numbers are being derived, and this is only assumption since I didn't get the response, is that there was some additional comparison done when making that terminology of a shortfall or surplus in comparing budgeted items to the net actuals that were occurring. And when we're talking about actual shortfalls or surpluses, it's truly the net income or net loss that is being worked with, and those are just on the actuals. So when we talk about
Richard, I can clarify that for you. I don't believe you saw the latest revision of what I put out, which did make that correction from our conversation originally, and the shortfalls and or surpluses were only on the income and the actual expenses, nothing with the budget. So those numbers were changed, and we published another copy to the board on Friday of last week, or actually Saturday morning, very early of last week. And I'm not sure you were privy to that at this point.
To you.
So
That's
what
what
you
that
forwarded.
was forwarded to you. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the numbers that I'm looking at then.
It's dated the 12th.
Is there a date on it?
I don't have the
I
actual
don't-
email.
I'd have to go back and look, Sean. It's all in a PDF form.
So in any event, what we were referring to, of course, is that our projected year end and so forth is very similar. Yes, the budget is a little different, and the discrepancy that you're referring to address Bert's comment, we are not ignoring Associa. We've used most Associa's data and corrections and adjustments that they sent to modify the budget to where it's at now. So we've utilized all that data. In fact, we spent nearly 20 hours going through it, comparing it, cross-referencing it between two different budgets, one that didn't coincide with Richard's projections and that Heather put together and the one that we put together. So we had 3 different budgets going on to try to come up with the numbers. So those things were taken in account of and not ignored.
Well, I'm by no means by saying that anything was ignored. I just didn't get a response from it. But as an example, I mean, we are looking at, my recap was from those same numbers and that same
Sean,
updated.
we've lost your feed.
Excuse me?
Yes, Sean is not hearing you. Is that? Maybe hold on one moment.
Hello?
Sean, I see her
We
here.
can't hear you on this end.
Okay.
We should be there in about 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, in light of them taking about 10 minutes to arrive, they lost, I guess we lost some communication. Let's see.
I can hear you. It's just very slight.
Okay, I can't hear Tommy. Tommy, are you guys still there?
I'm sure there's an internet failure. I just don't know which end.
Okay. All right. I can still hear Tommy.
Probably Sean. And,
Yeah, I think it's his end.
Okay. What do we want to wait and come back to this item?
Well, I mean, we might want to, unless, I mean, right now, if we have to make an adjustment or not is I guess the question at play right now for that.
Sean's on us. He says about 10 minutes. I mean, we have a whole to go through.
Yeah, can we not vote on this motion? Can we either leave it process-wise, Heather? Can we just say,
Yeah, we can.
just kidding, can we
yeah,
move on? All right.
correct. Yes.
All right, so as Sean gets here, let's move on. Action item I have here is for quarterly assessment payment options. I'm moving to make a motion that quarterly payments of the master budget be allowed starting January 2022. Okay. We'll second that. Okay, I believe I spoke with you, Richard, about that, and we are able to do quarterly payments.
Sure can.
There were a couple of reasons this came up. One of the reasons obviously was to help payment options. Right now, everything's due all in one lump sum. If we do quarterly payments, that will help some of the residents be able to make their payments on time. Another reason was for financial purposes. You know, the idea was brought across that, let's say you're mid-year and something major happened you weren't planning for and you're burning through cash, or you're burning through cash in one item and too much. You go to the treasurer, you go to Heather, and she can tell us what's in our accounts. And if our accounts are low, we still have money coming in for the rest of the year. We're not in trouble. If for any reason we burn through the master, let's say in the first 6 months, well, we have to wait another 6 months, but we're going to have more money to come into the bill. So from a financial aspect, that makes some sense as well. So therein lies the motion. Does the floor have any comment on doing that? Board, anything?
Well, I mean, that's pros and cons. I don't have a problem if that's what the board wants to proceed with doing.
That's the same for me as well, Tommy.
Okay, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. So since that motion carried, I do have a question to Richard. How do we go about doing that?
Just when the budget is submitted,
Yeah.
Heather will fill out the billing form and we'll change it to quarterly billing instead of.
And they have this
Yeah,
option.
I've already made
Okay.
a note on that.
And we have that option.
It'll be an
Oh, yeah.
addition to
Quick.
go.
Quick question, can you still pay it yearly if you wanted to?
Yeah,
Yeah, you just be
you can pay
prepaid.
2 years in advance if you want to.
I don't think anyone's volunteering for that, but okay, just want to.
At the budget, then, like Richard was saying, the billing assessment form is going to dictate how I'm directing our accounting team to know what's coming in. So it'll be a quarterly payment, and I've already actually made a note to make sure I do that.
Sean is about a mile out.
Okay, that's fine. We'll move on.
I have a question. So this won't change an eventual reforecast for the ones paying for.
We say reforecast.
So we do the budgeting right now. During the year, we might see that something goes off. So you don't do budgets again. You do reforecast. The ones paying quarterly won't be affected by that. It will still be a 1/4 of the division of the budget.
Well, either everyone's affected by it or no one's affected by it, provided the budget changes mid-year, which is not a goal of ours, so.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, you only have one budget, which is.
Correct. It's just, it's either the master all up front or quarterly.
And Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the financials, the residential assessments coming in, it's gonna be basically, we're gonna know that it's quarterly.
Mhm.
We're not gonna be accounting for, we're not gonna be accounting for 100% every month, we're going to be accounting for quarterly.
Okay, Fining Committee charter. I'm making a motion to approve the proposed charter for the Fining Committee.
I'll second that motion.
Second. You got a second for the motion? I don't have much more than that. We put a Fining Committee in place. I hope everyone had a chance to look at the charter. We didn't see any problems with it. I'll just put it to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to make a motion here to approve to hire the reserve advisors to perform our 2022 reserve study.
I can second that.
Okay, I've chosen reserve advisors based on meeting all three. Those are the ones that I personally felt were attentive to anything that we needed here at the Lake House. They had several different options of getting us data, manipulating data for us, everything we needed. In order, we met reserve advisors. They came in at $87.50. We then met with custom reserves. They came in at $10,000. We then met with Florida Reserve Study that came in at $8,800. I'll open up to the floor. Does anyone have any comments, concerns, or questions on that?
Yeah, I didn't have the opportunity to meet with them, so I apologize. Did you, knowing that Florida Reserve covers, I mean, you can pull it up here, but the specific areas that it does cover, it covers the townhomes, it covers the villas, the pool, the clubhouse, it covers more than what just Florida Advisors covers, I believe. I'm sorry, not Florida Advisors, the first one, Reserve Advisors, thank you. So, is this something, would we still have to do a reserve study for the villas, for Westlake?
That's a good question. I don't know, but when I was thinking about it, I don't know what we would really do with the reserve study for that.
It was, well, if I may?
Well, I was just gonna say, sorry,
Sure.
answer your question, then I already had it. It would be, are we getting the proper reserve for, like, exactly here, the townhouse, the roofing, the gutters, whatever
Right.
else is included, same thing with the villas, the roofing, the painting, the gutters, or do we have sufficient reserves there? If that's not included in reserve advisors, is that something that's?
So the reserve advisors only quoted on the common areas, not the neighborhoods. When I referred to the other two quotes, theirs were the same. There was a suggestion by the Florida reserves that they could separate them out. But I seem to remember him saying that it would be more to have separate reserve studies for them.
Actually, I have an email that's has it broken down that I forwarded to you.
Yeah, I need to look at that because you mentioned that on the phone.
Yeah, maybe it's unclear what they said, because it says full service reserve study with site inspection level 1, $8,800, but then through the scope of service, I guess it doesn't clarify, because they make a recommendation.
Correct.
Yeah.
They make a recommendation in the official quote, but they're not quoting doing all of them. So whatever he said in the email, and I'm saying whatever because I'm not looking at it,
Okay.
was not quoted in the actual quote. So he probably should have included that, and I seem to remember him saying it would increase.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it either way, because I mean, you can read it through that context of this. it doesn't include it, or I can read it, it says, we recommend the following,
Mhm.
and then it says scope of service, this is what we're doing, our price is $8,800. If it's inclusive, then I'm thinking, hey, it's a pretty good deal
Yeah.
for the money, because it's not above and beyond what, what we may have to go out and redo.
Yeah.
I guess that was my question, I don't know if it's been, you can answer that here.
I think you could probably, with that original email, had the original quote attached to it. You would probably clarify that pretty easily, but I do remember having a conversation when we interviewed him as well on the Zoom meeting, that he did state he had broken down the other system. That's where my understanding is.
I don't know the answer to that one. I mean, should we table this to December and get that question answered before we make a decision here?
Does that change your opinion based on? meeting?
Well, no. So my opinion of the companies, Reserve Advisors, the first one we met, they presented themselves properly. Florida Reserve Advisors only met us over Zoom. It was very brief. That doesn't mean they're not great at what they do. Custom reserves, they just felt inadequate across the board and overpriced. So it really comes down.
Tommy, we have not budgeted then for the other, if he's only covering the common areas, we've not budgeted reserve studies. So we would have to revisit this.
We would have to revisit all, yeah.
I'm in favor of voting on it now, Tommy.
I mean, we could amend it. I could amend the motion. Let's just amend this motion. I amend the table to our December meeting.
All right, we'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think just take over, we don't have to actually vote on it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I assumed we voted on it, but that's all right. Then we'll table that. Let's backpedal to the budgets. We do have Sean here. Sean, can you come closer though?
Yeah, budget. Hey, everyone.
Hi, John. The question that was having with, when you're saying as far as the budgets, that the budget that I have, that I sent that email on, it is the same one. And on the proposed budget, there's the two, like as an example for the villas, there's the two line items that are listed as prior year surplus or deficit, and it's a surplus of $3,438. And then an unapplied surplus for 2020 of $21,056.67. And my question basically was that from the numbers that I had provided, we had for the villas for 2020, there should have been an actual deficit of $1,984.87. And sorry, for 2021, the ending of 2021. And that deficit of the 1984.87 had already included a 2020 deficit of $7,720.89. So the actual carry forward deficit into 2022 and coming up with the numbers would actually be negative $1,984.87, not the $24,494.83 that's there.
The previous year budget is from 2019, not 2020.
I'm sorry.
One of the initial number at the bottom of the budget shows you the deficit or the surplus at the bottom. That's carried over into previous year's deficit or surplus. The other number that you see there is carried over from the financials we received for 2019, which shows that there was a deficit or surplus for those areas that were spent by the master budget and not put back to the service areas. That's why you're seeing a positive cash flow from master, because we were including paying those back to the respective service areas. It only went back 1 year. As I went further back, there were deficits that exceeded 4 years. To the service areas that needs to be paid back from the master.
Okay, I wasn't aware of 2019 numbers. I just did it from 2020 going forward. to provide, the baseline information.
Right, so the 2019 numbers are in the previous years, 2020 are fairly close to yours if you look. But the other number is based on 2019 and prior deficits from that point.
At that point, to the board, I have no additional information on that, since we didn't do any exercises. We didn't have financial for 2019, so I don't know what.
Sure.
What
I
transpired.
appreciate that, but that's where it came from, and I'm sorry I didn't respond to that correctly.
Okay. I'm good then.
Do you have any other questions regarding the budget?
I'll just ask one, and it's more, it's a question that I know the answer to, but I'll just say it so everybody's tracking. So what we're doing is we're recovering from funds that were maybe accounting-wise appropriately used, but from budget standpoint inappropriately used. I deep down, I genuinely believe the right thing to do would be a special assessment, because we justify the expense to the community and we say, this is based on our budget going into 2022. This is the proper way to make up for inappropriate, whatever the proper terminology is, that deficit. And then, but we think we got the budget right. We don't think that there's going to be a deficit or a surplus. We think we hit the right number. Whereas approving this as just raising the assessment to recapture those funds is re-snapping a chalk line that's going to right size us in a year, but continue to recoup new funds that may not necessarily be needed at that time. The reality is they're going to be needed, because we're going to do a reserve study, and we can look at our budget right now and we look in our coffers and we say our reserves are inadequate. But I don't have that. We don't have the reserve study to say that yet. Right. But sorry, let me finish real quick. So why I say it's the right thing to do, because it's easy to justify. The problem with that, correct me if I'm wrong, is special assessment means we need to get everybody in the community, because of the amount.
You need to proxy up
The
75%.
community has to vote on it, and we can't even get the community to vote on an election.
As of yet.
Which means that the reality is that we won't be able to recoup those funds, and we'll have to redo this next year.
Well, not even next year. The problem
Or
then comes
whenever.
back to, let's say we go for a special assessment and approve that budget. Let's say we get all the mails out, we get everything back in come February. If we don't get enough proxies in voting for that, then the special assessment doesn't pass. So then it goes back to, then we do have to increase and redo the budget mid-year to adjust.
It's logical to increase the budget because of the discrepancies we have within our voting structure. There's just no way around it. Realistically, I agree with you. I believe, and I say that for everyone's purpose, it would be better to take the $118 Band-Aid and rip it off and let me pay you a check and be done with it. But I promise you, my first pass on the reserve study, just for the common areas, we're going to increase our reserve by $169.74 is my first pass on it. It's more than what we're talking about increasing, which is $118. So I think we're going to end up hiking the budget up again next year. So but it'd be a smaller amount, much smaller amount.
Sure, yeah, no, and I agree with it. Like I said, I want to make sure that that's communicated. I know we only have 16 people online, and thank you for everybody else that came out, 12 people here, but, I think that's, process-wise, I do believe that would be the appropriate way to do it, but I agree, and I'll say that, obviously, we're gonna vote on this. I agree with the path forward, just, for what it's worth, deep down, there's a different way, but yeah.
Great.
I just had a question. Do we have any historical on how the community voted when it comes to financial things? I know the board was very low, but this is about people's money, might be perceived differently. Something to think about. It may be taken more seriously, and we may get done on that. I feel indifferent.
No, it's a great point. I mean, and you're right, and that's the conversation. We say, can you vote to right size this? But the vote is to ask you to agree to pay a check for $118. Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine it's probably not going to be well received, which puts us in the same spot we are now. But you're right. You're absolutely right. We don't have that data, so it's pure
You're right,
speculation.
because again, even if we do get the 75 votes, which you're 100%, we might, we still need a majority of that 75 to be in favor of it.
Well, you need a quorum of 30%,
Quorum,
but
yeah.
a vote of 75%.
A vote of 75%. Still hard number.
So the numbers don't support it, to be honest with you. And the reality is if they wait to do that and do that process, we'll already be in the budget. We'll already be running behind, and then they'll have to affect it anyway, which is even financially.
And most probably next year we have the same issue.
Correct. I mean, and then the last thing I'll say is that if we are running in a positive and we don't ultimately need money, then I know it's unheard of that there is the opportunity where you lower assessments, but
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. There's a process for it. It's unlikely, but.
You also have to remember that, 10% over our main cost ends up being possibly taxable. So if we take in too much money for whatever reason, we have to reduce it.
Yep.
Otherwise, pay 30% to the government. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'm going to repeat the motion. I'm making a motion to accept the financial committee 2022 proposed budget without a special assessment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I oppose it.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You and the financial committee.
And I want to publicly thank Richard. He put a whole lot of effort into giving me what I needed, and he was very, very helpful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, on that. Okay, 2022 community yard sale. This is a motion actually carried over for Johannan. I'm making it on her behalf. Making a notion to accept the tentative dates of April 23rd and October 15th for the 2022 community yard sale.
I'll second.
We're just basically trying to duplicate the dates for the Fish Hawk. If they change, we'll of course update the dates to be consistent, to utilize the advertisement that will be spent on those events.
Yes, if we need to change the dates, once we get closer in, we will, but this at least gets it on the calendar as an event that's happening.
I guess we have to vote now.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. One 14255 Nature Reserve. They have appeal in for exposed landscaping rock in the main landscaping grounds on the front of the house. I'm making a motion here. Excuse me, sorry. I'm making a motion to approve the appeal for 14255 Nature Reserve, contingent that the landscaping rock be removed and replaced with pine bark mulch on or before the home is sold, rented, or at a time when the guidelines have changed to allow unbuffered landscaping rock.
Okay. Yes, second.
Can I get a second?
I'm sorry, could clarify that, please? I heard you replace the rocks with mulch.
So I'm proposing that we approve the appeal, 14255, provided that the rocks be removed and replaced with mulch on or before the home is sold or rented, or at a time when the guidelines have changed to allow unbuffered landscaping rocks.
So tell me really quick, with that, I mean, does that mean that the rock just could stay as long as, I mean, there's no timeline on the house being sold?
Well, we just second it.
Thank you, Will. We'll second that. Okay, folks, I drove by, I looked at the homes, I researched this a little bit. I believe, and there's another motion that carries on 14257, which is their neighbor, and it's in the exact same form as this. Both houses have rock in front landscaping. It's already done. It's nice. If you like the rock look, it's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it. It's probably done the best way it could. especially for rock landscapings. It's not volcanic rock. It's good looking stuff and it costs money. Unfortunately, I feel like that they were a little misled by the art committee on this one. We went through the reports here. They were approved. It was tentative. It wasn't very clearly, in all honesty, it should have been denied big red letters, and that's just not how it was presented to the residents at all. So on that note, I mean, we kind of have to approve them. There's thousands of dollars in expenditures here. I believe they did it over a year ago nonetheless. We're just looking at it now. So, you know, my thought process is, I don't necessarily want this to carry over. I don't want other residents pointing and going, they did it, why can't we? So the contingency here is that it will be removed when they either sell the home, rent it, it's no longer their primary residence, and it could be filled with pine mulch, bulk mulch, and mulch. And the way we could do that is we keep an open-ended violation in the system on the address, and it just sticks. So when the house sells, we can look back and see, has that been taken care of?
Is that something that, yeah, open-ended violation of the system? So in other words, it's not, is that something that has to be settled before closing?
So what'll happen is if you decide to sell, then the title company will request an estoppel, and the estoppel will record any open violations, and the notes will reflect that. As long as you're- that's how.
I think that's fair to the residents, considering it's already been an investment on their behalf.
My thought process is I don't want to make them remove it. I don't want to fine them for it, which we can't anyways at this point.
Well,
it looks great. I just don't want to set it, it's not allowed. So I don't want to set it as a precedence in the neighborhood. I just want it to be known that, yeah, they can have it. It's beautiful. Just.
well, I think they went through the correct process. I just think it didn't, the whole thing didn't go the way it should have. But I don't want to be on, I agree. Over a year into this, I feel like it would be a little unfair if we just, you know, forced them to put in more investment until, I agree with the contingency.
Yeah. Hey, Tommy, so moving forward, if a request come in similar in nature, let's say requesting that exact same rock, that exact format, that would be denied?
Yes, any unbuffered landscaping rock should be denied. I know there's going to be, yeah, hey, people have this, people have that. Great, if they have enough of it and it looks odd enough, it's going to be caught, it's going to be found out, and we're going to go through this same process. Unbuffered landscaping rock is not allowed. Again, these two particular cases that are coming in right now are oddballs. If you looked at the paperwork in the packet on the ARC paperwork, it's very, very confusing the way it was done. I will address the ARC committee with an email, make clear denials, not contingent denials based on line item codes of where they're getting the guidelines from. Just a stamp, deny it, push it back through the system is much better off, because if you don't, this is where we end up. So,
Tom, if I could interject with that, have you passed that by legal opinion?
I have not.
The only thing that I would caution the board is that there's two sides to that the attorney, I would believe, would say is that it's already been there, it's been there for a while, so there's an issue with that. However, going forward, you may create a situation, if you deny somebody else, then they could provide a claim of selective enforcement. So that's a caveat there that you have to try and figure out how to.
Two things on that. Yes, I'm aware that there's no real way to avoid it without going through the painstaking process of having the homeowner remove it. The answer that came to my mind then, that was, yes, you're right, and they would have to spend a lot of money to prove that point up front first with attorney fees. Okay, so there's a lot of trouble to go through first. And second of all, this is exactly why I'm putting the contingency on there and saying, yeah, we did approve it. This is why, and it's not a permanent approval.
Yeah, there's going to be a record as to why they're giving that as an exception. But it's pretty apparent based on what was written as far as in the approval, how it was very confusing. And luckily, you had all your records. The homeowner had all her records from past communications. That warrants the exception.
If it was my house, I would have put down the rock too.
Can I say something? Am I allowed to say something? The house we're talking about me, sorry. I just want to say thank you, because this has been very upsetting, because as a homeowner, this is what I was telling Heather, my husband and I, I feel like we went over and above to ensure that we were doing the right thing and gaining the approval that we needed before we spent, which I said to Heather, over $5,000 to have that done.
Sure.
And so 2 years later to get the thing was really upsetting, and so I appreciate that you're open to it. My question is, it still feels a little prickly, I'll call it, thinking that if I don't live there till I die, I'm still gonna accrue additional costs to take all of that rock out. I'm assuming I would want to do that before I put my home up for sale, because if someone's, I mean, if you've seen the pictures, I mean, I know I'm biased, it's my house, but it does set the houses apart. It is beautiful. It was very nicely done, and I take good care of it. But if I replace that with mulch, if I was like buying a house, I know I didn't want the mulch. It washes everywhere. It's a disaster. So that would affect the sale of my home. So I feel like I kind of get stuck with an additional expense at some point in my lifetime when I feel like I did everything right and was misled and given misinformation. So I still feel like, in a way, I'm penalized at some
I agree with
point.
you. And if I may,
Yeah.
a couple things there. If I don't, that's why I also added stipulation here, while guidelines allow it, right? We have to have, we've talked about in the past, we're going to have a workshop on our guidelines, because they're not exactly correct. Right? There may very well be an allowance and acceptance of this in the near future. So, yeah, you know, you're probably not moving by the time any of this changes.
I hope not, no.
And more importantly, if you are moving, if you do find yourself at a date where you have to remove the rock and it's mulch, it's because you're the only one in the community of 1,200 homes that has rock at that point in time, right? Because you and your neighbor, you're going to be the only two. If the choice is to continually deny this and get the offenders and get them to change their rock, you won't want it when you're selling the home, because you will be the oddball. So you will at some point want to remove that rock, put in the mulch. So that you live right. At least that's my thinking. But I think it's more likely that this will change at some point, and it'll probably be clear.
Just for my input, I think if we're gonna change, I think we should put it to the community for consideration of whether or not we change. If the community agrees with the concept of allowing this, then I think there will be no, then we can go ahead with that change rule. If the community decides they want to stick with the mulch, I think it would be unfair to say you get to be the exception forever. This one house, two houses get the exception forever. So I think it has to go to the community.
It does too, Joanna, but I think not right now. It needs to go.
Not right now. Correct. Not right now.
Of guideline and submit all the changes at once.
Correct.
If it's worth, I would say that we can add this as a discussion point, whether it's a January meeting, get something on the calendar, so it's not just an empty promise.
It's on my town hall meeting for January's town hall meeting.
To discuss
our charter and our guidelines and start doing workshops.
So what I would suggest after you guys have the town hall meeting is, what I've done in the past is sat with the board, and just like up on the screen, like we had at the workshops, is we go line by line through your documents. Some of your documents require a membership vote, some of them is just a board vote. I suggest, we go through all of them and see where they contradict each other, because we want to make sure we're lawful in the wording. Make those visible changes, track the changes, and then what you do is you send them to your attorney to make sure that we are right in line. And then we have a final proof of a draft at that point. If it is the document that requires a membership vote, then it goes out to the membership to vote on. And if it's just a board vote, then you can have a talk amongst the community and say, here's the draft of the changes. If you choose to include the homeowners in those decisions, what they like, what they don't like, then you've had the majority of your work done.
And I believe the architectural guidelines That does not require a majority vote.
No.
So that's
No,
gonna be.
that's a board.
That's
That's a board vote,
That's
and I
gonna be-
have all those things written down.
That's gonna be the first document we work on.
Correct.
Because it's gonna get our feet wet with the workshop. It's gonna be the easier one to do.
But we do have to be mindful that what is stated in the ARC guidelines isn't something that it can't overrule what's stated in the charter, because the charter overrules everything. So that's why we have to refer to that first and then the sub-documents.
And who chooses the charter then?
The charter is a membership vote. That's a homeowner's. So what happens is that the board will make those changes. They will make the revised changes. They'll go to the attorney. The attorney will make the changes as they appear in the statute. Is anything statutorily that needs to be updated? Is there anything that's contradictory to the statute? Because some of these documents are written 20, 30 years in some HOAs and condos. So once that final draft is done showing the strike-throughs, then if that's the document that requires a membership vote, not just a board, then that goes out to the community to review and be aware of, to vote on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Either for the guidelines and or the charter.
that's the charter.
The charter is like.
The charter requires a membership vote, not the ARC guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a couple of comments as well in that regard as well. And we can discuss that in January, hopefully. Just the wording guidelines might be a little bit confusing since it implies that you don't have to kind of follow it. I understand that there's the charter behind it, but we might consider changing whether it helps or not. Yeah. Yeah. Second of all, I would also suggest when Heather sends violations out, not to approach the residents necessarily with the assumption that they committed something unlawful on purpose, but maybe send it out in the first letter, and I don't know whether there's some legal issues in that as well, but sending out as a reminder. That might be more, I don't know.
Yeah, and there are ways in which that we can reword only some parts
At least the first
of
letter.
our violation notices. Obviously, this was brought to my attention by the committee, and so, but we can revise some of our violation letters if it's a legalese kind of thing. I can't, but absolutely, that's
I was mowing my lawn and moved my basketball hoop out to the, from the driveway to the road, and I got a violation, and it will be removed half an hour later. My next door neighbor took a picture and sent it, long story
Oh,
short.
goodness.
Nevertheless, it was just like, okay, what did I do here? Like, first violation, I'm like, okay, that could, for instance, I think that, at least in my opinion, but that's it.
Absolutely.
Our violation process will be changing shortly.
Yeah.
So it's really shortly, actually.
They're gonna use drones now.
We use drones.
Hey, that'd be
We're
easy.
gonna text you a photo.
As long as the addresses are on your roof, I'm good, I can find you.
I really appreciate your phone. When I called, very upset, because I didn't understand that you listened to me and you did explain it really well and you helped me put all my stuff together, so I just wanted to
Oh, you're welcome.
say thank you.
Can you please post how awesome she is on Facebook? That'd be very helpful.
I really told everyone, everyone that knows me knows I've been very upset about this, because it feels like I do something wrong, I don't like that, so, but then I said, I called you and you helped me through, to understand it.
Yeah.
For people that aren't ingrained in all of the rules, and this is our first HOA, thinking we did all of the steps right, and then to get that was upsetting, so you helped me through that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'm going to make the same motion. I move to approve the appeal of 14257 Nature Reserve contingent that the landscaping rock be removed and replaced with mulch on or before the time that the home is sold, rented, or time when the guidelines change to allow unbuffered landscaping rock. Yes.
Second.
Or do we want to discuss? Folks, I should have said that.
I do want to discuss on this one, just trying to understand.
I apologize, I jumped the gun.
No, it's all right. The only thing different, I think, on this one is that rather than referring, the last one clearly said, approved, just use approved materials, which is, I get it, you can go back in there and look at it, but it's big green check approved, right? This one says approved, River Rock is not approved. Right. So I know looking at the pictures, and then it came down to a he said, she said versus it was the color of the river rock that wasn't approved, and then it was granite versus So, I guess on principle, to be consistent, fine. If the homeowner was here, I was just trying to understand the disconnect. That's maybe the part that wasn't coming clear to me in the guidance. I was trying to go through the emails and
I think it's the disconnect is the type of. That's where they're confused. I think they're approved. And not to mention they had a phone call, so okay, we could say that happened, but then we have no record. You know, literally, they pretty much share. They are neighbors next to each other.
Yeah, no.
So,
Luckily, both owners saved all of their documentation, which shout out to the few that are on the Zoom call, please do that. Because I wasn't here then, and I wouldn't have had any backup had they not, to show the process and what they actually, because both homeowners actually went through, made double check, are we doing this right? Are we doing this right? So always save that documentation.
and in addition, Your Honor, we're saying, I mean, here, there's no denial.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
looking for that denial, send it back through the process.
Yeah, we could be a little bit clearer on
I have to make that clear.
approved with conditions or no, almost if there's 3 checks and it's
If
like,
the conditions aren't really clear, just deny them.
Right.
Well, what they've done now is on their cover sheet, they being the ARC committee, they have a section on there approved with conditions. However, that still wouldn't have fixed the issue with the wording under the approval. It's very confusing at that time. And I think we've come across some recently that still have that same wording. So what we're doing, and I say we, I shouldn't say we, what Jennifer's doing, because she works directly with them on their approvals, is if she sees something that's vague or questionable, then we're gonna get clarification, and if we need to have them reword it on their approval so that this doesn't happen again, then we'll get that done.
Do you want, either of you want me to reach out to Daniel to have this conversation, or is this something you can, okay.
Well, I mean, we're not gonna step on your toes.
No, I'm just,
Absolutely.
if she's dealing with them, every other week basis, I'll reach out to Daniel, I'll talk to him.
You're the liaison, so.
I know, that's why that's why I stepped in.
Yeah, that was it. That's the only question and comment I had.
Okay, anyone else on that matter?
I'm good.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
He's still on?
He's on. Oh, I don't know. Actually, it's a good question.
I'm sorry, what was the question from the homeowner?
I think that's Bert.
Okay.
Somebody else.
Yeah, they're talking.
Bert's not on anymore.
Okay, folks, I have
So
I
they
have
have a quorum.
The other deal.
They have 4, don't they?
camera replacement.
There,
Well,
Tommy.
is Isaac still on?
Hey, folks, I'm
Okay,
So that's fine.
Yeah,
okay.
Even if he wasn't on the before.
Can you hear me?
Got it. You can do them all.
I'm making a motion here to approve an $18,000 project expenditure to upgrade and replace the communication network, the community's network infrastructure, camera security system, and access control system in 2022.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, just to be a little clear on where we are at the moment. We're in a place at the moment where our security cameras are not great at all, of the ones that we have working, which are very few. We have absolutely nothing going on in other areas of the community where they're completely broken or fried out. We have network issues across all 3 of our locations in the community, going from switch hardware, firewall issues. We just have problems network. It's bad news bears as far as that goes. Our access control system right now, we're up against 2 things. We have the dog park where the board in there is completely fried out. We've already spent some money trying to get to the point to realize that it's fried out. By some, I think like $800 maybe, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And now it's gonna cost a minimum of another $1,200, probably more.
Oh, 14 easy. Yeah.
Probably more, just to replace the board, and then we're probably gonna find out some of the gate locks are bad there as well. In addition to, one of the main things, obviously, I've been pushing that I hope everyone has heard, is expanding our current access control system to cover the lake house and the game room, This way we could have these places open to the community. And that quote, those quotes, I think the lowest I got on that was 11,500 for expansion. So I work very close with Unify Systems. We could upgrade the entire system here, both network, cameras, I included 24K cameras in that, and access control systems with cards, and an alerting system for $18,000. And my justification for it is this. We can reallocate from stealth security approximately $7,095 a year that we're currently spending, that they are so-called monitoring things, the game room, the pool, which I think they were at one point. I, for one, don't believe in the service at all. I don't trust it. But that being said, we won't need it. Okay, the cameras self-monitor themselves. They send out the alerts. I could set it up a million different ways on who it alerts, how often, and what triggers what. Another expenditure, we have 5,500 reallocation in access cards. We won't need to be spending $5,500 on access cards. This new system, I have already budgeted in the 18K a full access card replacement cost. In addition to it, works off smartphones. You just load the Unify app, walk up to the gate, it opens. You don't necessarily need access cards. We definitely don't need the printer anymore to print your badge and your photo on the card, which is another expense here. And the printer's dying, which I think was what, $1,200 for a replacement printer or something like that?
At least I don't do it now. That's hard.
So we won't need to do that. You walk up to the gate, hit your badge or your phone, it shows you a picture of yourself on the digital screen, and you're.
That's awesome.
I have another $1,000 relocation of maintenance for the gate system, which we can maintain internally. Very easy system to work with.
So you have 14,000.
I got at least 14,000. That would leave a out-of-pocket expenses, maybe 4,000 to 6,000. But some of that 18,000 can be pulled from any dog park or pool reserves. Because
Any
we
existing.
Existing,
reserve.
which I have not looked at yet, but I'm sure there's something in there. So we could possibly pull some funds from that as well.
And if I'll interject here, that information is gonna come when you're looking at the allocations between the reserve accounts that we're separating out, correct?
More important, I can interject for you, is that because of the replacement that we're doing with this budget that you approved, there will be a contingency amount of money that isn't spent from the past period that won't set the budget backwards. So we will not go backwards by adding that expense, but that still needs to be carefully monitored here forward.
Sure. Anyways, that's my request. Floor, anyone have questions on that? I'm expecting a $4,000 to $6,000 out-of-pocket expense on this, probably less, because I haven't included any reserves in that. In addition to probably a month worth of work, something that could be started in January, finished by the end of February.
With sweat equity.
With sweat equity, which by the way is myself and other residents. It's not like we're hiring a team to outsource this. This is stuff I do for a living. We have other residents that work with this kind of stuff for a living, and they've offered to help me out, pull wire, get network cables where it needs to be, run conduit. We'll get the project done. You're never gonna get this done any cheaper anywhere else in life. I'll give you that.
Absolutely.
How often, just out of curiosity, do we need to review, say, some footage and so on? I mean, this is kind of an insurance that you hopefully never gonna use, so I'm just.
Okay, to tell you the truth, a lot.
Okay.
And the unfortunate part right now, especially for me, and as an IT professional, I hate when someone says, hey, we need to see this, and you have to go, oh, we don't have it. You know, for instance, we had someone's daughter was missing not too long ago. The police contacted me. They were looking for cameras up our parking lot, and
Here?
yeah,
Wow.
can't help it. We don't have it. We have a problem with kids from Boyette Springs hopping over the pool fence and jumping into the pool. I talk to my kids. I have an idea of who they are. I can't prove who is and who isn't, what's going on. So what we do have in place doesn't really work, to say the least.
Now, let me ask you a question. Okay.
Then it's definitely a false sense of security if it doesn't work, you know, so I totally.
Hey, that's what they sell fake cameras. That's what they do. They put them up in grocery stores. They're fake, but they're a sense of that security.
So let me ask you a question. So if in that instance, we have kids that come over at 12 o'clock at night, and whomever you have on the list is alerted that somebody's jumped over in an area it's not allowed to in that time frame, are those cameras going to be able to actually make out who they are so that we can regenerate that video, because we're sure as heck not gonna know who the person is, and be able to go out on social media and say, hey, does anybody know this person? And then be able to see them.
Well, I'm hoping on a couple different things here. A, to answer your question, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at the back of someone's head, you're looking at the back of someone's head.
Right.
But if their position's set up properly, and if you find out you need more, okay, just spend the $200 and put up another one. It's that simple.
Correct.
Yes, you will be able to.
Because that's the hardest thing with being manager, is that, you know, I've had a situation where you think you have the whole area covered, and then something happens in this area.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm adding 5 more cameras, and that's great, but then it's grainy, where I can't make out the face. I have no idea who it is.
These are, you know, I had originally gone with 1080p's. You could do 1080p's or 4K's. Either which way, the answer, yeah, you will be able to.
Great, okay.
Absolutely.
And if we need to expand upon it in the future and request another small couple $100 here and there to add more cameras,
Perfect.
it's that simple. We won't have to be calling Accurate Electric and getting a $3,000 bid to add 2 cameras. It ain't gonna happen. We're just gonna do it.
Tommy?
Hey, Tommy?
Go ahead. Isaac, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, so 2 questions for you. The first is, do you have an idea of the duration of how long, you know, the data is kept? I mean, I'm sure it's not on-prem, it's in the cloud, right?
DVR, you're talking about camera security?
Yeah. Are we gonna be holding the?
We will be
holding
holding
the.
We will be holding the data. I always look to retain a month or longer.
That's great.
It can be done.
Joanne, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It can be done that way where we hold it. I've had from my work, we've done that too. And basically what you do is you have that hardware and stuff that would be able to have the memory to have the capacity to hold that kind of video. I'm assuming they're doing something very similar, and it would be able to.
Further,
yeah.
Just to add to that, Isaac, yes, local storage per site. Lake will have a local storage. Dog park, pool have a local storage. It's all cloud managed and accessible anyway.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And the second question is, and I appreciate, you know, us doing a little modernization where we can, right? In terms of the badging, thinking about all of our residents though, is that probably the most inclusive thing that we can do in terms of some of our more senior residents who are probably not as smartphone savvy? Would we have another option for them to be able to access different areas without using their phones? I'm not against it. These are just things I just want to throw out for consideration.
Yes, Isaac, I'm sorry if you missed it. This includes both mobile app and full badge replacement for the community. I believe I budgeted 2 per household. I'd have to double check, but at least 2 badges per household.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you.
No, we don't have to. So the readers, when you walk up to any reader, they could have one here at the desk, right? You scan your card, it shows you a picture on the digital. And it says.
Got it. Yeah, I was just thinking about the boards in the summer.
Yeah, it records it all in one. So if someone walks up to the reader and let's say they even get a deny access, it takes a snapshot, records who it was there getting denied what card.
So for the pool in the summer, usually the monitor, so they'll be able to see some photo.
They'll be able to see photo. They could be on the laptop there at the table logging the system and
Okay.
see in real time who's coming in, who's not.
According to also be set to, there's no motion,
Of course.
truncate either by the time frame or by the capacity in the drive. So we can keep them for as long as we need to.
Did you have something?
Yeah, this is definitely needed because at the dog park, I live across the street from the dog park, and my wife goes there a lot with her dog. And right now, residents and kids are climbing over the gates and ripping the gates open if they don't work.
Yeah.
I mean, they're standing on the gates. It's terrible that they're destroying, which costs us more money.
Yeah, it's bad.
That I was not aware of.
Yes.
What time is that happening? Do you know? Because I'll go out there.
Like 6.
I'll go out there and I'll stand.
When school's out, they hop in the lot.
Okay, so what time is that? Because I'll leave the office and I'll go down there.
Like on Mondays it's 12:55, it's just this little runtime max hours. And Tuesday to Friday it's 1:55. But
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have children at Barrington, so I can't.
Well, Stowers is probably more the problem than Barrington.
Exactly. I mean, they're not trying to be malicious,
They're
they're
kids.
just kids, and they're just having, I mean, you know what I mean, but there's a lot more
Just
than
being
down
curious,
there.
I'm talking about the evening for this. My
Oh,
walks are
at night?
about around 6, around about 5, 6
It's
o'clock
your
in the
downtime?
morning. The residents are, if it doesn't work, for a while it wasn't working, they were just ripping it open, or they were actually all climbing over the fence, which is destroying it.
So it's a big project. I wish I could have done it yesterday for you guys. I've been trying to work up to this for some time now. It is the best route to go that I can come up with. That solves pretty much a bunch of needs in one shot.
Put it out to space at the beginning of the
Oh, I will.
Here's an interesting thing that you need to know. The useful life of the system is about 5 years. So when we do the reserve study, they're gonna assess what we already have and say it needs to be replaced. And they're gonna come up with a number that's gonna say, oh, it needs to be replaced for $15,000, or whatever the case would be, or even more. That would actually go into reserve study. If we replace it out of the gate, then they see that amortization will go to 5 years down the road, and it won't be added to the reserve study or an expense to the reserve study until 5 years from now. So we're actually being preempted at this point, whether you realize or not, especially since we're having massive failure.
We're already paying for cameras, it's gonna work.
I'm with you. All right, can we put this to a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Beautiful. Okay, I have a motion here. I'm making a motion to create an election committee for the 2022 HOA election.
Seconded.
We have a second. Hand it to the floor if they have any questions. Got a second from Rob. So it actually is what it sounds like. We have elections coming up. Sean Rowland had threw his name in the hat to help with an election committee. And so this is to start that process and kick that off. We're going to be on board, full steam ahead. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
You can't. Motion carries.
If I can interject,
Yes.
Sean, when you are available, let me know, because I have several things to go over prior to the coming election.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Which, on that note, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but notices are going out when, do you know?
The first mail out is December 2nd,
December 2nd.
which will be posted, and all that is to notify everyone of the date and to put in their intent
In the email.
with a deadline date of the intent return.
Perfect. Okay, I move to make a motion to allow balloons at the lake house, helium balloons at the lake house, all balloons at the lake house, with the condition of any helium or other pressurized tanks always be kept outside with a minimum of 50 feet away from the building. I got a second?
Second.
All right. I'll move this to the floor. It's exactly as it sounds. Right now, our current policy is not to have balloons, and I found what I thought I would find. It's very old. It's dated from wherever it came from originally, because someone doesn't want to get high balloons out of the ceiling. Nothing that a painter's stick and a paper clip can't solve. So
Is this only inside the lake house?
inside, we currently do not. So people.
Outside, I think it would be problematic for.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
it's just inside.
Well, the problem is we have people reserving for birthday parties and whatnot, and then we're going, "Wait, you can't have balloons? No, you can't have balloons."
Yeah, we'll buy you a pellet gun.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah, I need to buy me a cherry lift if I'm gonna do it.
I told you.
And I'm scared of heights, so that's not happening.
If they just rent the room, you have to provide them a BB gun, make sure everyone's.
Hey.
You want to approve all colors?
Good point.
That's right.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Holiday decoration schedule. I move to make a motion to change the holiday decoration schedule from 30 days before and after a holiday to being permitted from October 1st through January 15th.
I'll second that.
Got a second. Here's my thought process. I'm getting a bunch of hate on Facebook over this one. Right now, our current bylaws state 30 days before or after holiday. Not what holiday, not which holiday, not the approved holiday schedule, nothing, just holiday. So if it's your holiday and it's yours and you love it, it counts. So right now it means nothing. There are so many holidays, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I blanketed everything from October 1st to January 15th. The reason I kind of picked those days was October 1st, everyone's putting up Halloween. Some people are smart and have Halloween lights that just change the color, and now they're ready for Christmas, right? Not Sean. So, yeah, and nobody wants to see any Christmas decorations for Groundhog's Day. So January 15th seemed like a reasonable amount of time after New Year's to pull down yourself and get it.
Wait a minute, January 15th?
January 15th.
This is inclusive of all, that's a little tight. Is that, are we sure of that?
We can move, my wife wanted me to say January 30th. We can move it out.
So,
What about still like St. Patty's Day, Easter? I mean, people decorate, I'm just throwing it out there. If you put specific dates, then I just want to remember that it's inclusive of all holidays. And if you haven't captured all those, I wouldn't be leery to put any dates on specific US.
I could have these dates wrong.
Well, I think Josh reported, what about 4th of July?
well, that's just to bring up, maybe I understand the problem. So are you saying that 30 days prior to and post is not enough time, is insufficient, or it's?
I'm saying it's nothing, because
you can't enforce it.
Okay, there's nothing to enforce.
Right, yeah, no, I get it, but yeah, the slippery slope is, 4th of July, Easter, and.
Option B, right now.
We are just naming Christian holidays and US holidays right now.
Sure, so option B, we need to put together a calendar.
Well, I mean, if I understand, like we do have, like I know my street has, there's several residents that celebrate the Festival of Lights and some other things, which I think is still acknowledged even on a federal level, but that would still be within the months that we're talking about. Trying.
My other question is to keep everybody, bring it back a little bit. You can't celebrate the holidays. The question here is, what holidays are people decorating their houses?
Correct.
I decorated for July 4th.
Well,
light, glowing, because I'm talking about illuminaries. I could change this to say illuminaries.
Well, you're gonna have to be specific because decorating is decorating. You know,
Okay.
I mean, I'm a military family, so
Like
my house is always decorated for military.
There is someone that might like that, you know?
Okay.
But yeah.
Again, open for discussion at this point.
well, I think we should allow seasonal, decorations, even with the holidays, which would be, of course, people switch from fall to spring, and then, I don't know if there's really, spring usually is like the Easter stuff comes, people, but there's like little decorative things, but they're not like big stuff usually.
Specific with it, I would say household fixed outdoor illuminaries and inflatables.
And lights.
Luminaries, right?
Okay.
I think that covers.
Just use Sean's decorations as an example on your ruling.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, how many?
No, I'm saying to allow.
So I guess the question is, do we want to do a date range? Or do we want to just put together a holiday schedule and we'll change the current bylaw to state according to the holiday approved holiday?
Or I guess just another way to do it would be, just as another idea, it would be holiday decorations will be taken down 60 days from the time they put it up. Here's the deal, we're gonna come up with a holiday schedule. It's not gonna be all inclusive. You go down the whole laundry list, right? So it's not gonna be all inclusive. The reality with this is We don't want Christmas, pick your holiday, but if there's an inflatable Santa Claus up, you don't want to see it in February, right? So we understand that, we can all get around that. If we give them a note, I guess it could be a pain and come back and be like, oh, I celebrate this, okay, fine, then we could at least understand it. But if that decoration is put up on the 1st of December and is up in February, then now you've extended beyond a reasonable amount of time to celebrate said holiday. So I'm just wondering if you just put a time on it.
I think that's a better idea.
45 days from the
and
time it's
es-
installed, 60 days from the time it's installed.
Yeah, especially from the enforcement end of it. I
It'd be
think if you
easier.
remove the October to January,
Sure.
that you are allowing anybody's holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're just putting an end date on that holiday. That way I don't have to walk around going, okay, what is the holiday this month? You know,
Yeah.
I pretty much have a good idea.
It's not, and we're not, right? It's gonna,
Right.
what's gonna find out is Heather's gonna get a phone call that says, hey, this has been up for 3 months, here's my picture, and then
Yeah.
she can say, hey.
And then I can refer to it, but I think you're gonna be able to allow anybody's holiday if you just open
No,
up.
that's right, but I think it's probably more enforceable.
Here's, if it helps, let me give you, yes, we have problems on both ends. We have people that keep it up too long, the residents start complaining. But the new one that kind of started all this year was the question of when can I put my Christmas lights up, holiday lights up?
Sure.
And then it was, hey, the lights are already up at the entrance that the CDD put up, so why can't I put the ones up on my
Because the
house?
CDD isn't you.
Well, I understand that, but I
Yeah,
understand
but
the
the perception
rationale,
is-
right? So.
Yeah.
Still represents the neighborhood.
It still represents the neighborhood, right?
Mhm.
So if you can, why can't I?
Right.
There's, on the chat, it says, be careful when naming holidays, you best be inclusive.
We understand that, sorry, we're
Naming
using common
holidays,
holidays as a
pushing around
representative, we're not meaning to
Right.
insult anybody,
No,
we're just using common times.
And then you're always gonna have to change if you specify holidays. So I think to Ryan's suggestion is that's what you should do.
You open it up to a calendar. The calendar is gonna be a revolving door, it's never ending, you're gonna be amending.
It's gonna be the same problem we have now.
Yeah, you're gonna be amending monthly. So a start date and an end date, I think is a very reasonable thing, includes most people.
And you're right, so let's put it this way, right now it is that.
Right.
And then people are having issues. I'm sorry?
The 30 before and 30 after?
Yeah, that's what's causing the issue, is the 30 before and 30 after. The first issue is 30 before and 30 after what?
Any holiday.
Any
It should be
holiday.
any holiday.
Okay, it currently states that, it's currently problematic.
Exactly.
If we adjust it to 60, then we are opening ourselves to having lights on the house in February.
Right now, it doesn't state, just like I stated on the Facebook page today, it does not state a specific holiday. It says seasonal holiday, the holiday, there was another wording.
So is it easy
not
for you if we
It
just leave
includes
it?
any holiday right now, it's just the time frame that if you're wanting to change.
Well, because you just need to clarify what's already there, instead of setting a new precedent, just clarify. It's your holiday, 30 days before, 30 days after, we're already there, that means it's your
Under those
holiday.
pretenses, though, we have people in violation at the moment.
It's on here, it says the Facebook prompt prompted this discussion. It inferred that the holiday in question was Christmas.
It didn't infer
It
anything.
never inferred that.
It never inferred
I
that.
read that whole thing and I don't.
Absolutely not. It just basically stated,
Who thinks
here's
it
the rules
inferred
about
that?
the holidays. And
It's starting a riot on there, and it's just wrong.
It says iPhone SR.
My iPhone SR did not infer that, please prove it.
Well, I mean, how do you determine, for example, feast of lights for festival lights, I'm sorry, for Diwali is just that, it's fast food, right? So they typically decorate with very similar looking lights than you would for Christmas. They do, and candles and so forth as well.
Of course.
So how would you determine that that's not, you have to determine what their celebration is. That gets confusing, especially if you possibly guess wrong. So the issue being is that maybe what we ended up doing in California, I'm just gonna throw this out here, we literally put a schedule out for each holiday. This is what we ended up doing, just made a list of all the holidays that are allowed to have decorations, and these are when they have to be reviewed, period.
But then you're leaving somebody's holiday out.
Of course, but you try to, I mean, there's not that many holidays where people decorate that are outside of the traditional ones that we know about. There are some,
But then all it takes is, and sorry, but all it takes is, and I understand where you're coming from, but from my point of view, right, from a management point of view, when I'm out there, you know, I can't say that that holiday is not as important as Christmas, as Snoopy's birthday, as whatever it is. So I think the board should be relaxed on that and say, anybody's holiday, right? But here's the terms of the decorations, a reasonable term of the decorations. Once you start listing holidays, you've left somebody else's holiday out, and that's just not fair to the entire community.
What about the individual who decides he wants to get past the rules by celebrating every holiday, and they just
Let them, they're festive people. Let them, they're fun, they're festive.
Which is why the idea of October to January.
You see what you did?
Did you see her?
That's hysterical. I love it, though. No, I love it. I mean, here's the thing, okay, and I'm sorry, I just have to say this. So what I have seen by the board is that you are into wanting to do for the community, right? I mean, you still have to make your board decisions and your business decisions, because this is a business. But at the end of the day, people are coming home to their home, right? So you've done a lot of things, and you're having these little, the food trucks and the Santa and things like that. If somebody wants to decorate once a year, then that's fine, but if somebody wants to decorate every holiday, National Donut Day, I don't know. I know that that's a holiday, so don't quote me on that. I don't want to see donuts in the front yard, but.
I just think that there's never gonna be, it's gonna be an ever-changing, non-inclusive list that's gonna exclude someone at some point, and to me, it would, I was sitting where I would want one.
If I can add just one idea to what you're saying, because I understand it, and the easy way to do that and still have a calendar, if you choose to have one, is we could appoint, for instance, we could easily say the approved holiday calendar headed by the social committee chair. So we could have Johanna, she doesn't have to approve it by the board. I could just start up a calendar for her, and any time that someone's like, oh, you forgot this date, we could just, and it's already posted on our calendar online, like, there it is. It doesn't need a whole committee discussion.
So the question is that are you going with what you currently have listed in your ARC guidelines? Or are you changing, because the current guidelines do not specify holiday, or are you changing it to reflect a longer time period to have the decorations up?
On the chat, they said, do not list
If I can interject, I would like to allow the lights for Christmas or the holidays for the December to come up, or I would allow it to come up early, but I would say, you know, I would like them to, of course, be taken down before February. So I would say probably maybe extend the just time period is what I would suggest at this point. And we can look at calendar just as something tentative, but I wouldn't put it in our bylaws at this point. I think we should have further discussion about that.
Okay, so that's fine, but then the answer, okay, do we just say 50 days before, 30 days after? Because right now we're 30-30, and that's what's causing the problem.
I mean, go ahead.
Decorations, I really need 6 peaks. So I've actually been curbing myself for the Christmas ones for this coming weekend. I'm still gonna be in violation by 4 days.
Can we find you?
Yes. I'm going there tomorrow morning.
Just to put up all of our definitions.
I'm sorry.
I just think,
They
I don't
said
know.
listing holidays will open you up to possible litigation.
Just don't. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, I just think that honestly, I don't know, my personal opinion on this is, I think 30 days is probably sufficient on either end. It's the intent of the rule, right? The intent of the rule is not to go to Sean's house on 34 days prior to Christmas because it looks nice and it's a good thing. It's the intent is, it's February 19th and there's, I don't know, a skeleton that's still up from Halloween and it's been up for 5 months.
Did somebody
Right? Yeah, but you know, so we're not gonna get it perfect. Here's the problem if we extend it early for the traditional Christmas season, then that's exclusive to the Christian holidays, not that. If we do 50, I'm personally in favor of leaving it as is unless it becomes an issue, but that's me, I'm one.
No, I agree. It sounds like that's the way it's going on
If
Facebook
that's
too.
the case, then you need to rescind your motion.
I was just about to. I am
Okay.
going to rescind my motion on that. I think the lesson here is, I hope Facebook people saw and hear this deliberation and understand why we came to what we did. Just be smart about it.
Do you have a second on that rescind?
Have a second on the rescind?
Yeah, I'll second this.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
I'm not sure what just got voted on.
That's a problem. I'm sorry. Who are you?
Maybe we can clarify the motion that we are keeping the wording as is, that it's kind of understood that, you know, they have 30 days plus then there's the whole violation process that puts in place.
Cut you off real quick. Basically, we changed nothing. The current rule is you have 30 days before a holiday and 30 days after a holiday. A holiday, there is no list. If it is a holiday, you've got your 30 days before and after.
President's Day, Martin Luther King.
Any day, any holiday.
How would it be enforced?
I'm sorry?
How would it be enforced if there's no list?
The exact same way things are already enforced. And furthermore, to add to that, I think the major concern that people have is not when they're up too early, it's when they're staying up too late. So it's a little bit more easily to even enforce on that level.
And are those outliers? I don't feel like that's the norm. I feel like that's an outlier.
Right.
It's worth changing for an outlier. You know what I mean?
Is it a problem at all?
It has been a problem before. It's been a problem. Every year it is a problem. You're asking, every year this is a problem. We've had some of these problems go to lawsuit over it.
So somebody complains over their neighbor or somebody.
Somebody complains over their neighbor who builds this monstrosity that goes, no offense, goes over the streets into the other neighbor's lawn, stays there forever, banging poles into community ground, and it becomes a huge issue.
Yeah.
You know,
That's like inflatable for us, but I get it. You can't like cherry pick. You have to like keep it.
it's a onesie twosie issue that every board deals with every year.
I feel like personally, I feel like the list could open up way more litigation than, you know, yeah.
So I'm sorry, whoever was on Zoom, I hope that answers the question a little bit better for you. And again, not that we haven't had enough, but we would open this up to resident input. Everyone can be unmuted, whoever's left, if there's anything they'd like to add.
Oh, no, you're late.
He
was gonna say something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well.
So the reason why I think they're what the rules is too, because I'm not gonna say the person's address, but if you go down Hometown, is that right? I always call it Hometown, but Hometown. There's like a little area back in the back. This guy has had his Christmas lights that look like a 5-year-old hung them. They've been there for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
2 years. You know what I'm talking about?
So
2 years.
So the 60 days.
And now he's able to put his lights on because it's getting time that he's okay now.
So the 60 days could actually not be 60 days from you put it up, but from a notification.
He's year round.
Yeah.
30.
I'm sorry, 30. Yeah, no, but we discussed earlier, 60 days.
We did, but we didn't change it.
Of course, when people put it up, you could then have the letter of notice, you have 60 days to remove.
So I have a question, though, that I do need to ask from a management standpoint, is, and I just personally, so around my pool, I had white lights because I wanted to illuminate around my pool. They weren't, yeah, technically were they Christmas lights, maybe, but they were all around.
Festoon lighting.
Huh?
Festoon lighting.
Okay, and now.
Yeah, they're called festoon lighting.
But technically, I bought them at Christmas time, right? So me going around and I'm writing somebody up who's choosing to have multicolored instead of white around the pool because they like that look. How am I supposed to, from a management standpoint, decide, is that Christmas? Is that what holiday? Or are they just lighting up their pool area?
I can tell you this. That's a hard call. That's a
Exactly.
hard job, and it's just one you gotta make because.
But is the problem only in front yards and not backyards?
If I can't see it from the street,
technically
then
it's
I
a
can't
problem.
write it up.
So I've not seen many poles in front of the house.
No, I haven't, no. And I'm not gonna be here at night either.
But a lot of people have them in their
Yes.
The rule
Yeah.
does state it out.
So I'll just, those will be on a case by case.
No dress code lighting whatsoever.
Sure.
But I can agree with that. I can, particular resident that I know put in some new, color changing landscape lights between the houses. You can't see them from the street, so it's all good.
But landscape lighting is.
But it is bothering the homeowners on either side because they're on late and they're color changing all the time. So there are issues when that comes about that would be a judgment call.
And that wouldn't be decorations.
They're not really decorating.
No, that's landscaping, so I wouldn't write that up as.
And those are onesie, twosies, they're, I mean, very minor, I bet that you encounter those, I mean, those could be even just approachable, just ask the resident, email the resident.
It'll be a case by case on that.
You know, this, again, that comes in that situation where the letter might just be a little too harsh.
Yeah, and I apologize, did you call for a vote on that rescinding on the holiday schedule?
I did.
You did, okay, sorry, I was
I
writing
seconded
your
it.
rescinding. Got it. Now we're.
Okay, anyone else? Anything to add, anything before we adjourn this? Meeting adjourned. Hey. One more, all right?
Oh, absolutely.
The Zoom people were muted. We couldn't say if there was anything needed.
I am very sorry, folks.
It was not acceptable that you asked if there was any other input and we tried to give input and you kept on muting us and then you ended the meeting.
That's not how that happened, ma'am.
Unmuted, yeah.
Is not how it happened?
Everyone's been unmuted over there.
I had unmuted, yes.
Well,
we were mute.
Our moderator, everyone has been unmuted.
Yeah, we've been unmuted now. Prior to the end of the meeting, we were not unmuted.
Well,
when
Tommy.
you asked if there was any other input, we were not able to give input. So now I've sat here for 2.5 hours of my night when this was the topic I wanted to get to after you were rude to me, Tom, all day on Facebook, and I didn't get a chance to even discuss it before the meeting was ended. And you want us to be a active part of the HOA, and you wonder why we're not.
Did Danielle type anything for you on that agenda?
Just now that we were.
So Danielle, as I said in the beginning of the
My
meeting.
name is Danelle.
As I said in the beginning of the meeting, you were supposed to type in your request for an agenda item to the moderator. Moderator's telling me you did not do that.
I had a dog fight in my house at that time and I had to clean up some poop. I'm sorry. And I had a child I was working with.
Thanks, Danielle.
I logged on at 6:10. Excuse me. I've been sitting here 2 hours. Oh, you're professional. This is professional.